This is Western Fashion Behind the Scenes, hosted by the Boot Babes. In this podcast, we delve deep into the world of Western fashion, exploring its history, trends, and the people who make it happen. With Cowgirls once again taking the spotlight, we bring you stories from the industry's most fascinating characters. Saddle up and join us as we ride into the Wild West of fashion. And now, here's your host.
Hey, it's Ashley, the Boot Babe, and I'm live on Western Fashion Behind the Scenes today with one of my favorite friends, Brit Bailey. She is a country morning radio show host. She also owns her own boutique. Welcome, Brit.
Hey, thanks, Ashley. So glad to be on with you.
I'm excited today. I want to know how you got into country radio. I'm curious.
Honestly, it started with a broken arm. So I literally say that I fell into country radio because I was a dog groomer for a while and I had a Western store at the same time. And I tripped over my own boot and I broke my arm and I couldn't groom dogs. And then through a friend of a friend on social media, they had been watching all the rodeos that I had been going to with my Western store because I was doing vending at that time in an old 1968 Winnebago that I had revamped into being a mobile Western store. And they had found that and they had been watching and they said, hey, we're looking at doing a radio show. And I'm like, great, cool. What do you want me to do? And they're like, just follow yourself around and talk country and play some country music. And I'm like, fantastic. Where are you located? And they're like, out west. And I'm like, I'm Midwest. And they're like, no problem. It's internet radio. So I actually was doing podcasting before it was even a word.
Oh, I love this. You're the OG of the podcast land. And so where can I hear your radio station?
Fast forward 10 years later, you can hear me on 93.9, The Country Moose. That's on Alpha Media. You can find it at 939kia.com. And you can hear it there live and local and all those fun things online.
So people have started following you. I'm sure you have quite a morning show following because you have a morning show. So tell us some funny things about the morning show. What is something we wouldn't know about that?
It's funny because I actually call it the Brit's Morning Brew Crew because I am doing this as a solo morning show because we're a smaller market in Midwest Iowa. I wanted to have more people that felt like they could hop on with me, and I interview a lot of people. We have a lot of people from the community, a lot of people from all over the place. We cover a lot of rodeos, a lot of the fashion stuff, topical stuff, kind of anything you talk about around a tailgate is what we cover. But I call it Brit's Morning Brew Crew because we have some third shifters and we have some first shifters and second shifters, and everybody has their own brew that they go for those hours.
I see. I love that. So I'll put that in the show notes so people can find you.
Yeah.
Have you always you were dog grooming before, and tell us how you got to where you're at. Where did you grow up?
Grew up here in Iowa, and dog grooming was just one of those things. I wanted to be a vet. And then that didn't work out so much. That's a lot of schooling. My AD wouldn't allow me to go that long. I worked for some vets and I ended up starting to talk to one of the groomers that was at a vet clinic. And she's like, man, I make so much more money than what you guys make. And I'm like, this sounds fun. Everybody gets to be happy and floofy afterwards. And so I went into that and became self-taught. Groomed my first dog clear back in 95 and then created at age 18, started my first dog grooming business and still was going to college at that same time. And then moved out to South Dakota for a hot minute with an now ex-husband as he was doing bull riding for college rodeo. And I set up my dog grooming right in the mall of Brookings, South Dakota. And I ended up being next to a Western store called Cowboy Up. And so that ended up, Dave, who owned that, was awesome enough when I left South Dakota and moved my dog grooming back to Iowa. But I actually ended up going to radio through there. I was also working at the newspaper selling advertising and ended up going back to Iowa and started at the radio station at that point in time doing advertising sales, which was not my forte. And I didn't realize it at that point. But yeah, fast forward a little bit. And then Dave decided to stop his business in Brookings. And he's, hey, if you want to come out and grab some last minute deals before I shut down. And I said, hey, how about I take the store? And I start selling out of my location because my dog grooming had a big building and I didn't have enough. It was way too big for just dog grooming. So ended up being a collab there.
Yeah, that's fun. So where's your store right now, the Western store?
The Western store is basically just online. Moved it online when I ended up randomly taking a job out to Milwaukee for a morning radio show. It's what they consider large market. So I was the producer of a morning show out there with two guys, Jake and Tanner, and they were very shock country, lots of craziness that we talked about on the air in the mornings. But I ended up having to sell my dog grooming business and stop the Western store and then stop my podcast for anything that involved music. So I still was doing rodeo, but not radio on my podcast. So I still kept that going, which is Gotta Be Country Radio. And that is still going right now. But everything on that is more rodeo than radio as far as that went. But then that radio station the boys ended up going and doing their own thing in Green Bay. And I went from being a producer to a co-host to then the host to then a co-host again. And then that station got sold to an ESPN station. And aside from rodeo, I'm not a sports girl.
I hear
Moving to
you.
Arizona for a hot minute and then moving back to Iowa with this job.
Fun. You know what's fun about you is you're a really good example of a woman who's daring. You're willing to take risks, and that's inspiring. You've met thousands and thousands of people all over the world. I see you every single year at the National Finals Rodeo. You're always doing something with radio, something online, something helping people, right? Sharing their stories and entertaining people. Did you get this from your mom and dad?
Oh, most definitely. My whole family is more out there and more in the public, and just I think it's small town. My parents always said that I had never met a stranger when I was a kid, and so I think it just came naturally. But also the gift of gab is good farming community.
Yeah. So, okay, we're on Western fashion behind the scenes. So tell me about your favorite brands that you love, that you carry in your boutique and you wear.
Sure. The ones that I wear frequently are Ariats. Owning a Western store is one of those things where you always buy so much more than what you need because you think everything's cute. And so you want to buy it in your sizes also. So I had a ton of different brands. I had Wrangler, that's Twisted X, Farini's, Lucchese's, like all sorts of them. But the ones that I really stuck to was when Cowgirl Tough came out. Loved when Lisa started up Cowgirl Tough. And of course, she being a Midwest girl here, right in Cokato, Minnesota. And also Cotton and Rye Outfitters is another one that's close to my heart. Corey does a fantastic job with single gal startup she took a chance and went off on her own. And she has such great clothes. I wore quite a few of her outfits at NFR this last year, even.
I love that. Do you know Lisa personally?
I do. We worked together for a little bit when I was doing the podcasting and she had her store. We actually worked together a little bit on her Be Tough line when that came out. She did a great thing with me. We got some gift packages for people that would interview with me on the radio, and they would get a gift package of Be Tough jeans or shirts or Cowgirl Tough. And then like even Granger Smith loved his Be Tough jeans, and he even wore them so much that when he came back to Iowa one time, it was so hot he made them into jorts.
Oh,
And he had worn them for years until that happened. So it was definitely neat getting to work with her on not only having her brand in my store, but being able to promote it to music artists that of course wear that stuff daily on stage.
right. And if you're curious who we're talking about, her name's Lisa Boland. That's the founder of Cowgirl Tough, right? Britt has worked with her. I worked with her. I was a sales rep out in the Utah, Colorado, Wyoming territory when they first launched jeans. That was an epic move from the Western industry. Up until then, right? We had Cruel Girl denim. Really, there was really not a lot of variety for women in something that was actually going to fit and had a curved seat. So that was really inspiring. I agree with you. What else? Who else do you love that's up and coming? Have you found anyone fun lately?
I really have. There's so many boutiques that have so many different outfits in there. For the plus size girl, there's not a lot out there. Cowgirl Tough does a great job with all of her plus sizes that she has. Some of the plus sizes, I found that I could find one that really had for size 18 and up. It's a hard fashion to go for in this neck of the woods. And I'm Midwest. I'm corn fed. Man, I am not fitting into a size 2 of regular denim. And I know that there's a lot of stores out there and a lot of brands that are now embracing that, but I haven't found one that has fit me quite as good as that. I know some of them have tried the 2% spandex, which is great. You get a little bit of a sag depending on how hot the temperature is. And the plus size shirts, it's really neat to see some of these fashions come up and some of them that have tried their hand at it, But a Crazy Train was probably the last one that really went into the full figured fashion with anything of 3Xs. I think it was up to 3X that they had. And aside from that, it's interesting because you say the fashion industry, I'm looking at going down to Dallas and going to market again. And I cannot wait to see if anybody started to embrace that a little bit more this year.
Yeah, that's fun. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have a plus size line or you have, what did you call it? Full figure modeling. I love whatever it is. I just love all
Yeah.
bodies. I love all women and I want you to feel confident. That's what Western fashion behind the scenes is about. How do you find your confidence? How do you find your personality through what you wear? No, this is exciting. I can't wait. We're going to do another interview at the market because I'll be there if you're going to be there and we'll
Yeah,
catch up.
totally.
Maybe we'll go find some boutiques that have plus size and full figure, we'll call it full figure size
Yeah.
magic in their repertoire.
Yeah.
Britt, if you had to tell people what your success was based on, what would you say? Like, why are you successful in life? Because
I
you
would
are.
probably.
I just want you to know, like, this woman has moved all over the country. I've known her for 10 plus years. She's friends with lots of my friends, but she's definitely helped thousands and thousands of people figure out how to use their voice in the Western industry. So tell me
Well,
why.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate that. I would have to say probably just perseverance. Everybody that when I started anything that I started, it was always met with, you can't do that. Every time they said that, it was just like, okay, I'm sorry. Now I have to prove you wrong. And so that's where a lot of my, I would say, success comes from. But I don't even feel like a success. I just feel like I'm here to help people network and people. I love to be able to help people achieve their dream. So if like in the radio industry, I love that I get to talk to artists that are just starting out and just finding their way as the independents. And even if they've got a label behind them and give them a voice on air or whatnot, so their music can get out to somebody else. When it comes to the Western world and being able to cover rodeo, it's so cool to watch a lot of these athletes when they started out newbies. Everybody starts somewhere. And I hope that I have made a lot of expensive mistakes over my life. And I hope, if nothing else, the only thing that I can say is just go for it. And if you need help, give me a holler and let me let you in on some of those expensive mistakes so you don't have to make them. Because I wish I would have had somebody that would have said, hey, let me help you with that, instead of just saying, no, you can't do that. Because I think it would have cut my doing things down in about half at least.
Yeah, we
I
like
think
to.
even when I met you, Ashley, I think I was short on cash. I had gotten my place out to NFR and I was like, I need more cash. And you're like, hey, I've got a job here at this retail store. Do you want to help sell? And I'm like, yes. And then later on, I'm going to go take care of the national finals horses for the grand entry. And then we're going to do a radio podcast. And it was just crazy.
I think it's so fun. I think you're right though. Like you can have a lot of hot stove moments avoided by finding people that are competent, right? There's one thing to be confident and say, oh, some people act confident, but competence of the act of doing it and proving that you can do it successfully to make money. You've pioneered a lot of those lanes. So I'm very grateful. I'm excited. I'm going to put in the show notes. If people want to find you, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
Easiest way to find me is to go to Brit Bailey Radio on all social medias. And if you want to find on air stuff, every morning I'm talking. So every weekday morning, I should say, you can find us on 93.9 The Country Moose. It's KIAI. You can just find me on there. But the socials, Brit Bailey Radio is best. Also, Gotta Be Country Radio, or just Gotta Be Country with the letter B for Brit. So if you find any others that are BE, that's right. They have tried to take my trademark, but it is trademarked. So it's just Gotta Be Brit or Gotta Be Country. There we go. B
Gotta
for
be
Brit.
country. Yeah, gotta be country. And I'll link that all in the notes. Thanks for being
Perfect.
on today, Britt. I'm so grateful you're here. This is Ashley, the Boot Babe, and we are on another episode of Western Fashion Behind the Scenes. If you loved what you heard today, make sure you go and share this podcast. Have a great day. This episode of Western Fashion Behind the Scenes is brought to you by the Boot Babes. Join the posse of thousands of women across the United States and the world that love cowboy boots and are committed fiercely to making sure Western traditions carry on forever. Thebootbabes.com is a $120 yearly membership that gives you the opportunity to win free boots every single month. Make sure you go to thebootbabes.com and join the VIP posse today.
Thank you for listening to Western Fashion Behind the Scenes, hosted by the Boot Babes. If you want to stay up to date with the latest in Western fashion, make sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for future episodes, so feel free to reach out. Until next time, keep rocking those cowboy boots.